Let's talk about the details in our clothing. Welcome back to the channel. If you're not a subscriber, then simply welcome to the channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. You might have guessed it from the title and the intro of the video that we're going to talk about details in our clothing today. Now, a quick shout out to everybody who is a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do appreciate you guys. It does help us out a lot here. Also, stay tuned until the end of the video for a quick little announcement, like a little life update, a little channel update. But mostly I just want to give you guys kind of like a rundown of what's going on with the channel and what you might be able to expect going forward. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the topic of today. Now, it seems like everything's getting a little bit more expensive. Prices are rising. I talked to a friend the other day and it seems like we both understand that our money is not stretching the way it used to. And for that reason, I feel like more than ever before, we want to get more bang for our buck and get the most out of our money. Now, as far as fashion goes, one of the ways I like to get the most out of my money, of course, is buying a versatile, well-made garment. But I also like to buy things that have a lot of care and consideration and craft put into them, i.e. those are the details. Now, I feel like small details, craftsmanship, and just overall care and consideration are dying down slowly but surely and dwindling away and becoming a little bit more niche, which I hate because things are only getting more expensive. I walked into the Gucci store the other day just to kind of look around and I realized they had the updated model of their Gucci Ace. And the Gucci Ace is something I've been wearing for a long time. I have a 2018 pair and I've always thought it was a good quality shoe. I went in to get some replacement shoelaces and they have added a little small Gucci logo on the laces, which is cool. And I would also like to say that I got the laces for free, so they didn't make me pay for it. All that being said, I still had time to browse around while they were getting me the laces, and I looked at the new model and realized a couple of things were different. For one, there were glue marks in places where I think there shouldn't be glue marks, and that is a quality control issue. And there shouldn't really be glue marks anywhere that's visible, honestly, because you're paying so much money for a shoe to be well made. Another thing is that the leather seemed to be thinner. The 2018 pair that I have seemed to be a little heavier. It kind of feels like a fake phone or like a burner phone versus an iPhone that feels like just substantially heavy. It's not super heavy, but it feels like there's some solid weight to it. It feels like it's a real good piece of machinery. In that same sort of a way, I feel like the product that is the Gucci Ace has lowered a little bit in quality. I feel like the leather is actually thinner, like they've used less of it or just a cheaper leather in general. Thin leather isn't always indicative of a bad quality product. However, I feel like what they're doing is they're shaving down cost. They're not necessarily marketing as a shoe that looks better with creasing or like something you're supposed to beat up, which thin leather would make sense for. But considering the actual purpose for the wear of the shoe and its casual everyday wear sort of use case, I don't feel as though the Gucci Ace is a good shoe to put thin leather on, as it'll wear out quickly, and the price point is not exactly approachable, if you want to say that. Now, they're probably saving a lot of money, but the savings are not transferred to the customer, and I know it's a luxury brand, you can't exactly expect that, but I at least expect them not to price gouge for nothing. Dior got into a similar issue when they were using cheaper, lesser quality goods, not necessarily up to par, like as far as the comparison to the old Dior bags. I think the noticeable drop in quality actually did start getting people a little bit upset and kind of questioning what they're paying for. Now, you can't really do much about brands doing what they do to save money and save on costs and overheads and stuff like that. But what you can do is educate yourself on what you should be looking for across the board in clothing to consider it at least somewhat good quality. Let's go over some brands that I feel have some pretty good or exceptional detailing in their clothing and have pretty good quality across the board. The brands I'm going to go over and discuss will be at different price points, and I'm going to sort of go over what you're going to get as far as detailing and quality and craftsmanship at those different price points. I've got this like nose strip right here, and it's so fucking annoying. Like my glasses, they just fall right off. Like it's crazy. You can see it in the video. Like it's nuts. It's nuts. But yeah, the first brand we're gonna get into is Champion. Champion is an American classic brand, and they are low-key the originators, along with Russell and some of the older brands in the United States. They're low-key the originators of the like track suit or sweatsuit, sweatpant and hoodie combo. Fuck this nose strip, it keeps making my glasses slide, it's crazy. I purchased the Champion reverse weave sweatpant recently, which is the pair that I'm wearing right now actually. These were deceptively hard to find, but they're very good quality. I found these on sale on Amazon, so I'm plugging you in now if you don't already know. The reverse weave material is one of Champion's like hero products. Essentially it's their product that they're most known for, or at least they're championed quote unquote for. This is a great example of something that you can get at a pretty decent price, honestly. I think they retail $60, but I got them for like $49, I think, on Amazon ship. Some of the details on these sweatpants feature the minimalistic Champion logo, the drawstrings, which are not thick enough to get in your way or be fussy, but are robust and thick enough to get the job done to hold your pants up, and they don't seem like they're gonna break or fray anytime soon. There's an elasticated waistband with a drawstring. There's an elasticated cuff at both leg bottom openings. Although it's not that thick, ugly cuff that some like jogger silhouette sweatpants have. These are essentially just the OG cut of sweatpants, honestly. And if it's not broke, I tend to say, hey, don't fix it. There's one detail no one really talks about, and that's the little sort of patch or little panel in between the legs and the crotch. I think that's where most of the synthetic material comes in because it helps you with mobility and stretches. One detail that I didn't mention yet that I really like, which I think is one of the defining factors or the defining details of the reverse weave products, is that it's called reverse weave because it is cut against the grain or perpendicular to the grain of the fabric, which means the pattern probably goes horizontal like this as far as the way it's weaved, but they cut it sort of against the grain and sort of with the grain at the same time by cutting it at a slanted line. And when they make reverse weave products, they factor all that into the garment before they create it. And once it's done, what you get is an anti-shrinking effect. And they did that without any crazy like off the wall materials or any modern synthetics or any crazy technology. All they did was kind of just pay attention to how things were made, and they worked within the structure that already existed to create something like that. And that I would say is a great detail. It's very interesting, and I think with the money that you're paying for it, $60 in modern times, I think that level of detail honestly isn't found in most modern clothing, even from bigger brands than Champion. So I think that definitely gives you a good bang for your buck. Another brand that I'm not gonna really harp on too long, but I do have to mention it because it is such a great example. You're probably already going to pretty much guess what I'm going to say, but the brand that is affordable, comparable to Champion in those same design languages is going to be Uniqlo, and more specifically Uniqlo U. What Uniqlo does in general, no matter if it's the U or the C brand or the collaborations, is they focus in on that construction aspect. They make sure the clothes are well made with clean stitches. They have lots of clean lines. Everything's very minimally done, but it just gets the job done. They're not really a designer brand, so they're not really worried about all the craziness that gets thrown into the loop when you're designing clothing for like a Louis Vuitton or a Balmain or something like that. But part of the reason why they're sustainable as a brand and they have good quality clothing that lasts a long time is because they only really focus on the main aspects. Now, you could say that Champion inspired Japanese or inspired Uniqlo, but I think that's always been a Japanese tenet or a Japanese virtue to always try and make the best that you can. And the way you make the best is just focusing in on those little things like the stitches, the serges. For example, this pair of pants from Uniqlo U has a thick belt loop which is holding your belt up pretty nicely, but also it's reinforced by a top stitch. The pockets are stitched or tacked with a certain type of stitch in this sort of a zigzag structure that reinforces the strength of the pockets, which usually is a high traffic area. The waistband is lined with another type of cotton, a slightly softer cotton. I would think maybe like a broadcloth, I think, but don't quote me on that. The serge lines here are serged, yes, but they're also top stitched so the serge will lay flat. They didn't have to do that. You'd never really see it unless you were looking inside of someone's pants. It's just something that you as a consumer can open up the package and see and understand that they've done a little bit extra. Clothing across the board, you should look for small things like that. Fabric choice, and of course, fabric choice means that sometimes synthetics are necessary for a certain garment, but when it makes sense, it just makes sense. You should also look for those things, like I said, top stitches and tacks to reinforce areas. Where there's not a rivet, there's a tack. Where there's not a tack, there's a rivet. How are things dyed? Are things dyed with indigo or mud, or are things dyed with lots and lots of chemicals? If you use the wrong method for the wrong purpose in the wrong garment or a wrong product, it's going to come off as sort of unintentional and like a mistake. And oftentimes it is. That being said, both my products from Champion Reverse Weave specifically and Uniqlo, especially Uniqlo U, have been really great bang for your buck purchases, and they include a lot of those details. Like I said, that's pretty much a standard. Now we can move into something a little bit more edgy, a little bit more detailed. Let's talk about some of the higher end, more designer aspects of the detail spectrum. If you know me, you might also be able to guess the brand that I'm going to bring up first, and that's of course Rick Owens. I'm not going to harp too much on Rick Owens as I do bring it up a lot. It is a heavy featured brand on my channel, but I do want to bring up a couple of details really quick that I found in the clothing over time as I wore them. One detail that I noticed is that in the Berlin sweatpants, there's this hard, rigid structure that's semi-malleable, but I'm pretty sure is made of plastic. Otherwise, it probably would have like disintegrated in the wash a long time ago. But what this does is provide structure to the actual crotch area, and it also kind of gives the button something to latch onto when you do thread the button through the hole. I mean, it's not going to be like a game changer to the point where it's going to make or break the product, but it's a very nice detail because that detail does show me that he did care and consider what people might be doing on a day-to-day basis in those pants. That high price point of $300 to $600 depending on what pair of Berlins and if you have a sale or not. Another item that I really enjoyed the details of were my Rick cargo, asymmetrical cargo pants or shorts. Good God, I can't even talk. I was in a store not too long ago and I realized this as I was trying on some other clothes. I reached for my wallet because I did make a purchase and realized that there was a lining on the inside of the back pockets. Now, I don't really use the back pockets on this particular pair of shorts as much, but they are cargos, so of course they have them. And I realized the soft interior was different than the rough and sort of like nylon-esque exterior. I realized this and I was like, man, he didn't have to add that in there, but it's a really nice hand feel to take your wallet in and out of. It actually helps your wallet slide out a little bit more, and I don't know if that was part of the detail or the intention behind the detail that he added in there, but I do know that it is a functionality that I do enjoy. Details in clothing may be small and numerous, but everything from the way the neck of a shirt or a sweatshirt is constructed and the overall length of the garment as far as the sleeves and the hem and the overall body of a top or a jacket or any piece of outerwear, all those details, although they seem tedious and small, make a huge difference. Those little tiny minute details are the reasons why you wear that one sweatshirt or that one pair of shoes versus all the other sweatshirts and pairs of shoes that you have. Be surprised how much trash we buy and how much low quality stuff costs way more than it's supposed to. Sadly, if you don't buy from brands like Rick Owens or maybe some smaller Japanese denim brands or like a Guidi and stuff like that, these smaller artisanal lines, if you don't buy from them, it seems that the detail, construction, and craftsmanship sort of get, I don't know if I want to say lower, but they sort of plateau. They don't really go above and beyond to a certain degree. I think Bottega Veneta and even Balenciaga actually have some mad, insane, crazy detailing, some crazy construction, and some really interesting fabrics. Even their cottons are usually something I've never felt before, and I thought I've felt all the textures that cotton could embody. It used to not even be that big of a deal to have something handmade and be high quality, but as time goes on, we've made things easier to produce, but when you have millions of a garment, it's very difficult to QC or quality control all those millions. It'd be kind of like cooking 5 eggs at once. You can't make them all fluffy, delicious, and beautiful because honestly, it's just too many eggs to keep track of. But if you made 2 eggs, especially in the same pan, it's a lot easier to make sure that you have the best quality egg or the nicest, fluffiest scramble that you can possibly have on those 2 eggs. So with mass production, the details sort of die down because not only is it very costly, but it's kind of difficult to make sure there's a standard for 1 million garments or 5 million garments. It seems like the smaller the batch, the better the quality of the individual pieces, but also the higher the price point is. So in making clothes cheaper, we actually made it more expensive to make them the right way. So now all you need to do is really just be educated and know where and what to buy. Now let's get into some more details. I'm going to go over a couple of things that you may need to look out for, or maybe you want to look out for when you're trying to shop for a better quality or more detailed construction in your garment purchases. Before you hit that purchase button, here are a few things to look for. Number one is going to be country of origin. Country of origin does not necessarily make something good or bad. You can make terrible things in China, but you also can make really high quality things. You can make really high quality things in Italy, but you can also make pretty crappy things in Italy. But the thing that really differentiates Italian goods from Chinese goods usually is because Italy, like a lot of Western countries, have more of a standardized and fair agreement between the worker and the company that they're working for, which means that they're going to have to pay them a certain amount of money. They're going to have to pay them a livable wage. And well, I guess when you do that, you want the best quality work possible. So a lot of these people are actually making clothes because they have a degree or some sort of certification in garment construction. And that's how you get some of the best quality products from Bottega, from Rick Owens, or even from Gucci from time to time, especially in the Tom Ford era. Hermes bags, everything that you see made to the highest quality usually will be made by a trained craftsman or craftswoman. It just so happens that China has all that, but they also have labor laws that are a lot different and allow them to pay their workers a lot less. And so they hire a lot of unskilled labor or very skilled labor that they just simply don't pay as much to make many garments in a constant assembly line. So looking for made in Japan, made in Italy, made in France, or made in the USA usually will point you towards a better quality garment, although it's not always the case. Second, on that same care label where you find the country of origin of a garment, you'll also find the fabric composition. Now, me personally, I always want to look for natural fibers, although there are some exceptions. Like for example, I have a Margiela shirt that's made of 100%, is it Cupro? Well, I'm gonna put the tag on screen. I can't believe I don't remember what my own shirt is made of. But essentially these types of materials like Tencel and viscose, what they do is they mimic silk in a lot of ways, but they're kind of like a stand-in or like a substitute for silk when you want to take the cost down. They kind of feel the same in a lot of ways. They drape the same in a lot of ways, but they're of course not silk. These are technically of natural origin. They're usually some sort of plant pulp or fiber that they've refined to make it feel and look like a more natural material. That being said, many of my tops and even my bottoms are made of 100% cotton, which is increasingly rare nowadays, unfortunately. But I would say that most of the time it's no contest. The 100% natural material usually wins and is usually a better quality product and a better overall feel on my body than the mixtures or the fake versions of a natural material. Finally, the fit. A garment that fits oversized may be intentionally oversized, so when you put it on, it fits kind of nice, honestly. You've never worn a shirt that was 24 inches across the chest, but for some reason it sits on you. That's because that width is in proportion with the sleeves and the hem and the neckline and all the other aspects of that garment was intentionally made to fit that way. On the other hand, you can buy a 4X t-shirt from some store, some Tractor Supply Co or whatever, and it doesn't quite look as flattering. Be careful about buying garments like this from expensive brands, as they may have some of these shortcomings and pitfalls of the cheaper non-designer brands with that designer price tag still attached. Brands like Issey Miyake and other Japanese brands are really good about doing the proportionately oversized garments, but you don't necessarily have to buy Japanese. So it's very underrated to try your clothes on. Try and go to a brick and mortar store, or make sure you have a return policy with your clothing, so when you try it on and it fits you, you can keep it, but otherwise you can return it. Along with that tip, I'll just end it by saying, make sure you know what your proportions are, your measurements. I'm not the first person to say that, but it's extremely important to know what fits you, what proportions are going to work with your body. And you may have to take 3 separate measurements for different fits, but I think at the end of the day, even though that takes a lot of time, it is worth it. Alright guys, thank you so much for sticking through this entire video if you reached the end. Honestly, I feel like I maybe yapped a little too long on this one, but hopefully I gave you guys some good information pertaining to the details in your garments. But now it's time to end the video with that little update that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. I've had some recent life changes, some things going down that maybe took away from my video scheduling, and although I'm not a huge account and maybe some of you guys don't care, I really do want to apologize to people who were tuning in or are still tuning in and do care. My schedule's been a little bit less consistent than it has been over the last few months, and honestly, I may not have a video out on time or like on that same schedule that I was trying to create for myself yet again. This video shouldn't be honestly too far apart from my last video, but there may be a gap between this one and the next video because I have a couple of things going down just in my personal life that I have to take care of, and I do appreciate you guys for understanding. On the positive note, I am going to try and do different things with my editing. I don't drop as many shorts as I need to maybe, but I am going to try and experiment on my shorts with some editing, and maybe that will make its way into my long form content, honestly. That's probably the real goal of the plan. I do want to make the most interesting, most visually appealing video that I can, and I'm trying to get better every day and every time I try and film something. So hopefully you guys are noticing that and noticing that work that I'm trying to put in. But that's going to be all for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. Have a great one, and until next time.